What's up, Timmers here. Now, here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, 30, and 40 this week. And we got some interesting ones. The film celebrating their 10th anniversary, we got Creed. Now, of course, Creed obviously was the spin off, if you will, of Rocky. The second movie directed by Ryan Coogler, who obviously will go on to direct Black Panther. And he just put out Sinners, which was great. Now, of course, this has Michael B. Jordan as the role of Adonis Creed. Uh, who, of course, is trained and mentored by Rocky Balboa, played by Stallone. Of course, Sylvester Stallone got an Oscar nomination for this, and obviously he lost out to Mark Rylance, but Stallone was really great in this. Michael B. Jordan was terrific. I mean, when they first announced that they were going to do a spin-off of Rocky, that did sound a little odd, but the movie turned out to be great. Mike B. Jordan was fierce as Creed. I just enjoyed this a whole lot. Then, of course, we go on to have two more sequels, and it's a really interesting franchise. Hopefully, we'll get a fourth one, but who knows. All right, also turning 10, we got The Good Dinosaur, which is, of course, a Pixar film that I feel like is one of Pixar's most underappreciated films, in my opinion. It explores the alternate history where non-evident dinosaurs never became extinct, and follows a young dinosaur named Arlo, who meets an unlikely human named Spot while traveling through like a dangerous and mysterious landscape in order to return home after being washed down river. And the voice sounds is really decent. You got the voices of the likes of Anna Paquin, Sam Elliott, Frances McDormand, Jeffrey Wright. It is a really good little film. I mean, it's not like one of Pixar's best works or something like that, but I thought it was pretty charming. It was really heartfelt. Obviously, I feel like this movie, it came out the same year as Inside Out, so obviously got overshadowed because Inside Out came out that same year. But hey, The Good Dinosaur, I think, definitely deserves some love, in my opinion, but that's just me. Alright, also turning 10 is Victor Frankenstein. Of course, we just had the recent Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein is also really underrated. It stars James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe. And it is, of course, it is pretty much like a interesting Frankenstein story, and it is told through the eyes of Eagles, played by Daniel Radcliffe. James McAvoy is really decent in this one. Charles Dance, Andrew Scott's also in the very decent Frankenstein adaptation, in my opinion. The chemistry with Radcliffe and McAvoy is really good. It was also written by Max Landis. Really underrated film that I feel like hardly no one talks about nowadays. But anyway, also turning 10 is The Danish Girl, which is of course the movie that won Alicia Vikander her Oscar. Now, The Danish Girl was directed by Tom Hooper, who put out the Oscar-winning film The King's Speech. He also put out Les Miserables. He's pretty much in director's jail because he directed a little movie a couple years ago, Cats. Yeah, it's a shame that he's hasn't directed movies since. I feel like Cats really hurt his reputation. I mean, it's a shame too because the guy won an Oscar for The King's Speech. He directed like Les Miserables, he did Danish Girl, and then he came out with Cats, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, we get to see a major comeback from him, but who knows? Now, the movie, of course, stars Eddie Redmayne, who actually got an Oscar nomination as well. And here you got, it is actually based on a true story with Eddie Redmayne as LB, who's one of the first known recipients of, transgender surgery. And obviously, people nowadays will probably call this thing woke and blah, 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 because lots of transgender haters for some reason. I don't know why. Uh, I always support the trans community. I don't care what like transphobia is. People says trans people are awesome. But so the Danish Girl is great. Alicia Vikander was terrific. Amber Heard was in this one. Ben Whishaw. It is a really decent film that is well worth watching there. All right, now we got a lot of stuff turning 20 this week. We got the film adaptation of Rent. Now, Rent, of course, obviously based on the famed Broadway show. Uh, about like six of the eight original Of course, 8 of the original Broadway members are reprising their roles here. Now, obviously, it depicts the lives of several bohemians, and they're struggling with drugs, paying their rent and stuff, during the academic from 1989 to 1990. And you got a great cast list. You got Anthony Rapp, Adam Pascal, Rosario Dawson, Jesse L. Martin, Tay Diggs, Sarah Silverman was in this one, Idina Menzel. It was also directed by Home Alone and Harry Potter director Chris Columbus. I enjoyed Rent. I thought the music, was terrific. The performances by Rosario Dawson, Jesse L. Martin was terrific. I just thought it was remarkable. We also got In the Mix turning 20, which of course stars famed singer Usher. You also got Emmanuel Shariki, Chaz Palminteri, Kevin Hart's in this before he became pretty popular today. And it's about a DJ who manages to rescue a powerful mobster one night in order to repay him. And the mobster gives him the task of protecting his daughter. So getting a little bit like the bodyguard feel to it in a weird way. I mean, Usher was pretty decent. His chemistry with Manu Shariki was pretty good. It is a really nice little film as well we'll watch there. Alright, we also turning 20, we got The Ice Harvest, which stars John Cusack, Billy Bob Thornton, uh, Randy Quaid. And it's about Charlie and Agnes, played by John Cusack, who's an attorney for a mobster, played by Randy Quaid, has access to some not so clean money, which is ready to be embezzled here, and with the help of his associate Vic, played by Billy Bob Thornton, on Christmas Eve, the two partners decide to night tail with the money here, and you also got Connie Nielsen's in this one. Now, of course, John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton also worked together before on the movie Pushing 10. So this was like their first like major film together for quite some time. And obviously they have some really good chemistry with one another. Thornton, Cusack really play off each other very well. It is a really decent like dark comedy that's a really interesting little comedy here. Randy Quaid was pretty good in this one. Really decent film there. Alright. Also turning 10, oh, not 10, also turning 20 is Just Friends. Just Friends, of course, stars Ryan Reynolds, and was directed by Cruel Intentions director Roger Kumba. You also got like Amy Smart, Anna Faris, Chris Klein, and the plot focuses on a formerly obese high school student played by Reynolds who attempts to free himself from the friend zone after reconnecting with his best friend played by Smart, with whom he of course is in love with in his hometown of Christmas. And I really quite like how you got Ryan Reynolds to play someone in a fast suit here. He was really charming throughout. His chemistry with Amy Smart's really decent. This is a really nice little romantic comedy that's well worth watch there. All right, speaking of Quaid, by the way, also turning 20, we got Your Mind and Ours, which is of course a remake of the 1960s, I think it was, film. Now this of course stars Dennis Quaid, Renee Russo. You also had former Drake and Josh siblings, Drake Bell and Miranda Cosgrove were both in this as well. I actually had a fun time with your friends and your minds and ours. I mean, I still think True by Dozen the better film, but I thought it was pretty charming here. Dennis Quaid, Renee Russo was pretty decent in this. Of course, this follows like a blended family with 18 kids who try to stop their marriage between the two parents. And I thought like the chemistry with the young or the young actors was pretty decent. I mean, definitely had some fun, hilarious moments in this. I really had a fun time with your mind and ours. All right, also turning 20 is the period movie, The Libertine, which stars Johnny Depp, Rosamund Pike. I remember watching this. I don't really remember much about it, to be honest. And here you got Johnny Depp as Samantha Morton, who stars as John Wilmot, uh, second Earl of Rocher, and Morton plays Elizabeth Barry. And the film chronicles the life of the descendant But brilliant Earl of Rochester, who was asked by King Charles II to write a play celebrating his reign here, and I was never a fan of this one. It was a little too boring, to be honest. Yeah, Johnny Depp was okay in it, but not really anything to go by. Also turning 20 is the movie Havoc. Now, Havoc, of course, starred Anne Hathaway and follows the lives of wealthy LA teenagers, who's, of course, exposure to hip hop culture inspires them to like pretty much imitate the gangsters' lifestyle and engage some tourism in here. And they run into trouble when they encounter a gang of drug dealers, discovering they are not as threat wise as they thought here. And there's some really intense moments that does happen towards the end. This of course starred Anne Hathaway, who obviously at the time was always best known for Disney movies Princess Diaries, Ella Enchanted she did. So this was one of her most adult roles she did. And let's just say, yeah, this was a really major adult role Anne Hathaway put out. Yeah. You also do got speaking of Drake Josh, by the way. Josh Peck even has a cameo towards the beginning. It was cool seeing him pop up in there. You got Joe Phelps was in this one. Fred Rodriguez, who plays like one of the gangsters who really does a little something to Bojo Phillips' character, which I'm not going to go into details, but if you watch Havoc, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, this was, of course, like pretty much like a gangster movie, like a hood type film. You had a very young Channing Tatum, Joseph Gordon-Levitt talking gangster. That was pretty cool, I guess. I mean, I always quite enjoy Havoc. It was a really decent film. And Halfway was really good. I can never pronounce her name so well, but Joe Phelps was pretty good as well. I mean, yeah, it's a really awkward movie to watch at times. But it is of course obviously a hood movie, so there's that. It is a really decent film, worth giving a go. A little tense at times because there are some intense moments that does happen towards the ending. But yeah, interesting dialogue too. All right, now films turning dirty. Oh, we got some good ones turning dirty this week. Martin Scorsese's classic Casino. Oh boy, Casino turns dirty. That's insane to believe. It of course stars Robert De Niro as Sam Ace Rothstein, who's a Jewish American gambler, expert handicapper, who is asked by the Chicago outfit to oversee the day casino here. And of course you got Joe Pesci, you got Sharon Stone. This movie is excellent. I always love Casino, love some of the dialogue here. You got Don Rickles is also pops up in this as well. Boy, Don Rickles had two movies that same day. Cool day for Don Rickles. Sharon Stone, of course, got an Oscar nomination, which I think she showed one in my minute. But and you also had James Woods popping up in this. It is definitely one of Scorsese's best in my opinion. That is not Goodfellas related. Joe Pesci steals so many scenes here. I just adore this movie a lot. It's really amazing. It is fun. Uh, Great performances by De Niro, by Pesci. Sharon Stone's great. Go watch Casino. Also turning dirty. Speaking of Don Rickles, by the way, also turning dirty is Toy Story. One of the pretty much the first computer animation movie of all time. Take place in a world where toys come to life when humans are not present. Obviously, you got Buzz Lightyear, voiced by Tim Allen, Tom Hanks as the voice of Woody. I mean, obviously, Woody, of course, develops a jealousy towards Buzz when he becomes um their owner. When of course he becomes their owner and his favorite toy here, and some great lines. It is one of the greatest anime movies of all time. You know, the chemistry between Buzz and Woody is great. The Sid character, one of the greatest movie villains there is. I just adore this movie a whole lot. I just rewatched the movie back in theaters this past September because they re-released it for its 30th anniversary. The movie still holds up. You know, it's just such an amazing film. And of course, we ended up getting other sequels, spin-offs. We got a fifth one coming out next year. Nothing beats Toy Story. It's just one of the best. All right. Also turning dirty, we got Money Train, which stars Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes and Jennifer Lopez. About a vengeful New York City transit cop who decides to steal a transload of subway fares here. And the chemistry with, obviously, you got Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes, who obviously both work together on what you call it, White Man Can't Jump. Like I think a year, like a year or 2 years prior, if I'm not mistaken. They really play off each other very well. This was one of Jennifer Lopez's earliest roles. She was great. It is a really entertaining one. It is fun. Highly recommend that one. Speaking of Johnny Depp, by the way, also turning dirty is Nick of Time, which stars Johnny Depp and Chris Walken, and it takes place in real time and follows a public accountant who must, you know, who must take out a politician in exchange to keep his in exchange for his kidnapped daughter's freedom. And it was a pretty fun, like, little 90s thriller. Johnny Depp, Chris Walken, both really good in this one. It is really entertaining, really fun. Definitely get that one to go. All right, also turning dirty is Two Bits, which stars Al Pacino. And it's about like a 12-year-old who schemes, who a 12-year-old schemes to get a new movie house while fulfilling his alien grandfather's wish in 1933's South Philadelphia. Not a bad little film here. Al Pacino, Mary Elizabeth Mastroianni, really decent there. Film turning 40. Speaking of Rocky, by the way, turning 40 is Rocky 4, starring Sylvester Stallone. Of course, who confronts Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren, who's a Soviet boxer responsible for who of course is responsible for killing Apollo Creed. And Stallone is like definitely a really decent installment. I mean, nowhere near as good as the original Rocky, but come on, the back and forth scenes with Stallone, Lundgren is great. Obviously, better than Rocky 5 that we end up getting prior to this, but yeah, of course you got Bridget Nielsen was in this one. Carl Weathers, Burt Young. I mean, who? It's just a really good one. Also turning 40 is Santa Claus the movie. Not to be confused with the Santa Claus with Tim Allen. The Santa Claus movie, of course, starred David Huddleston, who you might know as the Tyler character from The Big Lebowski. And of course, it's about a man named Claus who delivers toys in his small village and fulfills his destiny to become Santa Claus. And of course, you got like Dudley Moore was in this one, John Lithgow's in this. It is a really remarkable Christmas movie. I mean, it's probably not one I always go rewatch. Like, it's not as classic as, let's say, Home Alone or The Santa Claus or even A Christmas Story or anything. But I still always appreciate it. It's really heartfelt. It's really fun. David Hudson really does such a good job here. It is a really heartfelt film as well we'll watch there. But that's pretty much it. Let me let you guys. Which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one is going to Creed. The 20-year one is going to Rent. The 30-year one is going to Sorry Casino. I love Casino, but I'm going with Toy Story. And the 4-year one is going to Rocky 4. Anyway, drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Simon Simon.